In this TeamWork 5 Manager tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set the settings for the autofill feature of your schedule. To do that, go to your top menu bar and click on TeamWork. Make sure you have your enterprise or the location selected, then choose Locations. Click on the location you would like to adjust autofill settings for. Then go to the top of your chart and click on Schedule. You should now arrive at a list of your autofill settings. What you see right now are the default settings TeamWork 5 will automatically assign to a new location. Under the first block, you can see constraints. These are per employee constraints. I can choose how many days a week I will allow my employees to work. Right now they can work up to 7 days a week, 14 days in 2 weeks, and 31 days in 1 month. Then I can see the maximum number of shifts they can work in those time frames. Then the maximum hours per week is 80, per 2 weeks is 336, and per month is 744. If I wanted to change any of these settings, I could. Let's say that I only want my employees to work 6 days a week. I can go here and change that to 6. I could say that I have a maximum of 40 hours a week. So I can go all the way down to 40 hours a week. If I had left the hours at 80 for that first week, that would tell TeamWork 5 that I am okay with my employee working 80 of their total hours for the month in the first week. If you're not okay with that, then you need to change the hours in that first week. These constraints only apply to your autofill. If you manually add an employee, you can override these constraints. Next, you will see the minimum split. That's the minimum number of hours you require between split shifts. The maximum split is the maximum number of hours you require between split shifts in a 24-hour period. Then you'll see the maximum number of hours you require between shifts between days. That last column is for employees who have long shifts, like 24 hours. How many hours do you require them to be off before they can work again? I'm going to go ahead and change that to 8. So those are the constraints per employee. Next, if I scroll down, this is the settings for how the autofill will fill up your schedule. How you fill out these settings depends on what your goals for filling in your schedule are. Under load balancing, the first pass maximum hours is going to determine whether the autofill gives everyone some hours or it prioritizes employees with higher skills and assigns them the maximum hours first. If you enter in a number that's low, like 20 hours or less, then most of your employees are going to get some hours on the first pass of the autofill. If you give that first pass maximum hours something like 40, what TeamWork 5 is going to do is it's going to assign your highest skilled employees the maximum number of hours they can work first, and then whatever is left over will be distributed among your less skilled employees. So I'll go ahead and change that to 10. I'll try and get everyone some hours. The second pass maximum hours is when the autofill goes through and fills employees in for a second time. And if you enter in 30 or 40 hours, that's the maximum number of hours it will assign to a single employee. TeamWork 5 will then make a third and final autofill pass assigning your employees to the remaining shifts. This will ensure all of your shifts are filled. TeamWork 5 will not override your employees' set maximum hours in order to fill your schedule. That means if your employee has a maximum of 20 hours, TeamWork 5 will only assign them 20 hours using the autofill feature. If you need to adjust your employees' maximum hours, you need to do that under the Employee Settings tab. Then you have randomization. If skill level doesn't really matter for the stations your employees are assigned to work at, you can click this arrow and choose to randomize how your employees are assigned to their stations. If you want to have a high randomization, you can choose high randomization per day or per schedule. When you choose high randomization, it will override settings like your priority and skill levels when assigning employees to stations. So if you don't want Teamwork 5 to override these restraints, choose a low randomization or no randomization. Or you can have a little bit of a lower randomization per day or per schedule. If skill level does matter, leave the randomization off and the highest skilled employees will automatically be assigned first. I'll go ahead and say low randomization for the schedule. I can do the same thing with my shifts. If I click the arrow next to shifts, I can choose to highly randomize shift assignments. So that means employees are not always going to work the same time on the same days, that sort of thing. I can choose a low randomization or I can leave that off. Again, high randomization will ignore your other constraints. Low randomization will still randomize your employees' shifts, but it will take into account those restraints when doing so. I'm going to go ahead and leave that off. Next are your shift priorities. If you want your highest priority employee to be assigned the highest priority shift first, before anyone else, then you need to change that first ranking. If you don't care about that, you can leave it at a low number. I'll go ahead and change it to 3. Then you have shift length priority. If you want to make sure that your longer shifts are filled before your shorter shifts, then you need to give your length a higher priority, something like a 7 or above. If that doesn't matter so much to you, you can go ahead and leave that at a lower priority. If the highest priority for you is just to get the schedule filled to make sure someone is working there, then you want your coverage to be a higher priority than your rankings or your length. That way, Teamwork 5's autofill will make sure the shift is filled before it will take into account the skill level of the employee and the length of the shift. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one at a 9. Then you have the start time priority. Right now, that is not taken into account when someone is being scheduled into the autofill, and I'm going to go ahead and leave that at 0. Next are the employee priorities. If your employees' rank at their station really matters and you want to make sure that the higher ranking employees are filled into the schedule first, then go ahead and up that number. Maybe I'll change that to 4. If you want to make sure the employees' rotation and availability days are a high priority and really taken into account for the autofill feature, then you'll need to go ahead and raise that priority as well. Then, if you're happy with your changes to your autofill settings, click Save. A green save bar should appear next to the blue Save button, letting you know when this page was last saved. And that's how you can view and adjust your autofill settings for a specific location's schedules. Check out the next video to learn how to view and adjust your auto break settings for a specific location's schedules.